Hello, my friends. How are you? Our story today: in a kingdom called Orlandia, people lived in prosperity and peace, but they feared magic and magicians. This fear was ancient, inherited from the great wars that broke out between humans and magicians centuries ago. Not all magicians were evil, but some used their powers to wreak havoc. 100 years ago, King Aldrin decided to banish all those with magical powers from the kingdom, issuing a decree forbidding their entry or even the mention of their names in public. Thus, humans lived in isolation from magic, believing that peace could only be achieved in its absence. But far beyond the kingdom's walls, deep in a forest called the Green Shadows, there was another life. In that ancient forest, where trees spoke and mushrooms glowed at night, lived the witch Margaret. Unlike other magicians, she didn't know hatred, nor did she seek revenge for her expulsion. Instead, she chose to direct her magic toward caring for life, healing broken wings of birds, restoring flowers to their youth, and speaking to ancient trees to learn from them the history of the earth. Margaret wore a purple cloak, embroidered with threads of starlight, and carried a staff made from the wood of the Tree of Tears, a tree that only grows in sad places filled with forgiveness. Despite her loneliness, Margaret was never truly alone. Birds sang to her at dawn, deer came to eat from her hand, and squirrels stole berries, only to return them the next day with shame. Even the wind knew her name and stroked her hair whenever she sat on the grass, reading from her old books. But one day, the unexpected happened. The royal palace was shaken when Princess Laura, the king's only daughter, was struck by a strange illness. Physicians and wise men were unable to explain it. Day by day, the princess was losing her strength, her growth slowing, and her eyes were fading as if the light of life was being sucked out of them. Rumors began to spread. It's a curse! This is magical revenge! Who can save her? One night, the young prince, Leon, Laura's brother, sat by her bed, holding her frail hand. His heart ached, and he could no longer bear to watch her slowly die. He whispered to her, "I won't let you go, I promise." The next morning, he left the palace stealthily, riding his pony toward the Green Shadows forest. He didn't know the way, but he followed the signs of the wind and the chirping of the birds, as the old sage had told him, reminding him of the name Marguerite. Leon wandered for days in the forest, facing storms, getting hungry, and nearly drowning in a magical swamp. But he kept repeating his sister's name whenever he grew tired, until he fell before a strange cottage surrounded by talking flowers. Marguerite quietly opened the door, looked at him with her hazel eyes, and said in a warm voice, without him even asking, "I know why you came." She cared for him, fed him a soup of healing herbs, and then asked him for one thing: to trust me, even if the world fears me. The next day, she put on her cloak, placed several rare flowers and ancient book leaves in her magic bag, and walked beside the prince into the palace. When she reached the gate, tension reigned. The guards raised their swords, and the ministers shouted, "Witch!" But Leon stood before them and said in a firm voice, "She is my sister's only hope, and if you don't let her through, I won't move." Everyone hesitated, but the king, seeing his son's love and the impotence of medicine, allowed her to enter. Marguerite entered the princess's room and found her face as pale as the full moon. She placed her hand on her forehead, closed her eyes, and then muttered words in a language known only to those who have spoken to trees and the wind. Light of life, return. Breath of wind, breathe. O flower, open your eyes to the light. The room was illuminated by a dim golden light, filled with the scent of dewy blossoms. The princess began to stir, then took a deep breath and opened her eyes. The queen wept, and the king knelt before Margaret and said, "Forgive me, I was wrong." But Margaret smiled and answered in a calm voice, "I do not punish, I forgive. Magic, like fire, can warm, It can burn. It depends on the heart that bears it. From that day on, Orlandia's face changed. The good magicians returned, living alongside humans, teaching them, healing their sick, and cultivating the fields with them. A statue of Margaret raising her staff to the sun stood in the heart of the capital, a symbol of peace and hope. As for Margaret, she returned to her cabin in the woods, where nature speaks and hearts listen. She asked for nothing in return, only that goodness would remain alive and magic pure for those who deserve it. The end. My friends, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to encourage us to keep posting more. See you, my friends. See you tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe.